Hello students. Last time we have seen different types of economies in the world. The capitalist, socialist and the mixed economy. Let us move ahead. Factors affecting an economy. Let us see the factors that affect an economy. Following factors are mentioned here: political sovereignty, occupation, population and geographical area and natural resources. Political sovereignty. We say India is an independent nation. It is having its own boundaries, own national anthem, national flag, national emblem, and so on. We are independent. We are not ruled over by any other country. So, India is a sovereign nation. Second factor, occupation. Students, previous standard you must have studied different types of occupation: primary, secondary, tertiary occupation. So you must be knowing what is primary occupation. Occupation where you are making the use of natural resources directly is known as primary occupation. For example, here you can see the farmer is plowing the land. Land here is the natural resources and land is used for farming. So he gets his income from farming. You can see some other occupations shown there. More the occupation in a nation, more the nation will be prosperous. Or if there are a lot of variety of occupation in the nation, where people have the choice to choose the occupation of their liking, more to prosperous the nation will be. Let us move ahead. Population. Population I can also call as human resource. Most important resource that a country requires is its population, the human resource. India is the second most populated country in the world. Although we have many people living in the country, although we have large number of population in the country, but this population should not be considered as a burden. Mind you students, there are many nations in the world which do not have population, which have very limited population. In fact, they want people from other country to migrate and settle in their country. India doesn't require such a thing, right? Presence of skilled, semi-skilled and unskilled laborers in a country contribute to the economic development of the nation. Final factor mentioned here is geographical area and natural resources. Now, India is a huge, big, vast country. It is the 7th largest nation in the world, having lot of natural resources endowed by Mother Nature on Earth. For example, the snow-clad mountains, many rivers flowing in the nation, presence of many minerals here, different flora and fauna available in the nation, and we are blessed with different seasons. So all these natural resources and the geographical area are also the factors affecting the economy. Let us move ahead. Always remember, economics is an important social subject. Social, the word social here means related to human beings, related to the population. We say man is a social animal. That means he cannot live alone. He requires the help of other people. So, economics is also an important social subject. We use economics on large scale in agriculture, trade, finance, administration, law, and in our daily life. Now, when we begin this chapter, we have seen the example of the family who had limited income but the expenditure was more, and the management of the same is called as economy. Management of limited income and vast expenditure is called as economy. So, if a small family is also doing or managing the fund and practicing economy, so also It is practiced in many different sectors like agriculture, trade, finance, administration of a country, law and order, and so on. Next, economics hold a paramount importance in the social development of humans. Now the word paramount means very, very, very important, ultimate importance. So economics hold a paramount importance in social development of the human beings. See the picture of Sir Adam Smith. Adam Smith is known as father of economics. The book that he has written is called Wealth of the Nation. Name of the book is Wealth of the Nation, and it was published in the year 1776. Here, in this book, Sir Adam Smith had defined economics as science of wealth. Mind you the two words, science and wealth. Now, science means systematic study of anything, and wealth means money. So economics is nothing but systematically managing the money. Next most important, let us continue. Globalization of an economy. Recent economic policies are taking the economy towards globalization. That means now we are not bounded by the borders of the nation, but we are having borderless economy. Globalization means building a world economy. Here there is free flow of goods, technology, labor, capital, etc. Let me give you an example. Research and development of a product is done in one country, say suppose Germany. The capital, that is the investment, is made by suppose USA. Labors are available from country India. Technology for the same comes from country Russia. And the final product is made. So can you see? Research and development done in one country, labor of another country, capital investment is by one country, and technology is from another country. So here the final product will belong to the whole world, to the whole globe. It will not belong to either of the countries. So you can see globalization means world economy where there is no border. There is free flow of services, capital, labor, profit, resources, technology, and so on. There are different global brands. For example, McDonald's. McDonald's brand is available throughout the world, throughout the globe. Nike is another such product. Coca-Cola is another such product which is globally available. So these are global brands. Now globalization means aligning the country's economy with the world economy. There is free trade and all restriction on investment are set aside. Now what is free trade? Before 1991, year 1991 marked the beginning of globalization. Before that, if anyone want to invest in India or start a factory in India, there were a lot of restriction, lot of policies, lot of taxes and so on. But after the year 1991, India opened its border, its market to the world economy. And now with very less restriction, very less policies, anybody can invest, start the factory in a country. There is a free trade. That means a country who wants to start a factory in the country will be bringing the capital. Labor will be from the country, resources will be from the host nation, but the profit will be shared by both the nation. That means benefit of globalization goes to both the nation, and the best quality product is available for the world. I hope the concept of globalization is clear. Okay, moving to the last part of the lesson, the function of an economy. Every country has different economics. We have already seen capitalist, socialist, mixed economy. Every country will be having different economy. For example, USA will be having capitalist economy, India has adopted mixed economy, and so on. Nevertheless, the main function of the economy are similar. Whether the country is a capitalist nation or a mixed economy or a socialist economy, the problems faced by the country will be same. So, the functions of economy will also be the same. Let us understand some of the main functions of the economy. Deciding the product and quantity of the production. Deciding what is to be produced. First of all, the product will be decided. For example, if certain things are in demand, that particular product will be selected. Something which is not in demand, why will a entrepreneur try to produce such a thing? If the product is not going to be sold, no one will be interested in producing such a product. So, deciding the product. For example, these days, production of sanitizer, mask is on rise because such products are in demand. Is that clear? Deciding the product. First, the product is decided. Next is you will decide the quantity of production. How much is that product to be produced? Only for the need of the local people, or for the need of the nation, or for the world as a whole? So you are going to produce for export purpose or only for the regional purpose. So you have to decide the quantity. Next function, minimizing the production cost as much as possible. Production cost. Now when you are producing anything, you are incurring a cost. Let us take the example of a cold drink. Now a regular bottle of cold drink, the smaller one, say suppose cost rupees 10. The market price is rupees 10, but the cost of the production that the company has incurred is rupees 5. So they are earning 5 rupees as profit. If they want to earn more profit, do you think they will be increasing the price to rupees 12? Then the profit they are going to get is 7 rupees. But by increasing the profit margin, by increasing the price, the customer will not prefer your product. They will shift to some other product. Then your sale will go down. In that case, instead of increasing the price of the product, one should minimize the cost of production. Suppose you are incurring rupees 5 in production. By upgrading the machinery, by use of technology, suppose the production cost is now reduced to rupees 4. Still, you have increased your margin of profit. So, an entrepreneur, a manufacturer will try always to reduce the cost of production, to minimize the cost of production, so that his margin of profit is maintained or is increased. Next function, distribution of national income according to social and economic justice. Excuse me. Distribution of national income. Now the national income belongs to its population. It belongs equally to the rich as well as the poor. It has to be equally distributed among both the rich and the poor. It should not be so that by distribution of the national income, the rich goes on becoming richer and the poor become poorer and poorer. So if you want to distribute the national income, it should be distributed in such a way that you are bringing about social as well as economic justice. Next function, making appropriate provision for the economic needs of the future. Mind you students, you must be knowing that the resources available are limited. Say suppose natural gas, mineral oil, etc. These resources available are limited. Now it is duty of us to see that we are prudentially using it and saving it for the next generation. So making appropriate provision for the economic needs of the future. Now, how can you make provision for the future generation is by using alternative technology. Instead of using these fuels, if we use wind energy, solar energy, we will be making less use of natural gas and mineral oil. Let us go to the next point. Deciding for whom the goods will be produced. The first point we have seen, deciding the product and the quantity. Now we will be deciding for whom the goods will be produced. Suppose you are manufacturing watches. Now the watches will be used by generally the upper middle class and the upper class people. Poor people might go without the wrist watches. So the product, or let us take another example. Say suppose ACs, air conditions. Now generally air conditions will be used by the rich people. So you have to decide the product that you are going to produce is for classes or masses. Here masses means the common people and classes means the higher class. So by deciding for whom the product is to be produced, you will be deciding your profit margin also. Thus, an economy strives to create a balance between limited resources and unlimited needs. Mind you, economics is always striving a balance between limited resources. Resources are always limited, but your wants, your needs are unlimited. And to maintain that balance, to manage between the two is nothing but economy. I hope the lesson is clear. Thank you.